I'm sure there's more people that have rode the roller coaster of 2 employees, 5 employees, 12 employees back to 4. As you look back over that, is there anything you do different?
Stayed more in our lane, stick to these custom outdoor hardscape areas. Our construction, would really fumble, mainly because I was putting people in those places that didn't have a very large construction background with the mindset that I would be there.
So really, in hindsight, you would just use the high demand to give you the luxury of getting really choosy with what work you take on, as opposed to trying to throw bodies at all the work that was coming.
We were trying to hit a number. Part of us slimming down was also because we didn't know what 2023 was going to be economy-wise. I'm going to be a little conservative here, and let's just be profitable. We'll do just as much work as we did last year with 4 guys and myself, just as much top-end revenue. With last year, we finished just shy of 1.3.
Yeah.
And we're budgeting right now to do about 1.4.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Cost of Doing Business show. I am again here in South Central Pennsylvania. We're actually pretty far south, not that far from Maryland, right?
Not far.
Yeah.
5 minutes.
So today I'm with Trey from the Ground Up Landscaping, and I keep seeing your stuff on Instagram, like when you tag me. So it kept like, hey, I need to go see that guy. I need to go see. Not that far. Yeah. No, I love it, man. I wish I wish everybody would do that because, I am a contractor. And so being stuck in the office more than my desires would be, it's nice to kind of keep that connection to people out there grinding it away in the field. So I like to see those. I love it when people tag the account and give me a chance to see what you're working on. But anyway, give us an introduction of yourself and your background and how your business started.
All right, my name's Trey Chilcoat. Got the name From the Ground Up when I was in high school. We did side work all the time.
I was wondering about that. Yeah.
Yep, so started that back then, and my wife and I got together in middle school.
Okay.
Had our first kid when she was a senior and I was a freshman in college, so the whole start your own business thing was put on the back burner. Got a real job and lived that, and 4 kids later, and decided, what, if I don't do it now, I'm gonna hate myself the rest of my life. So do it now and let's see what happens.
There's a quote that I'm totally not gonna pull together here or right on the podcast, but something about the pain of regret is far greater than the pain of failure.
Okay.
Something like that. Something along those lines. Yeah. But I've read that before and I'm like, Because for me, SynkedUP is kind of that thing. Yep. I just knew that, do I really want to sign up for this? And if I hadn't, I would hate it.
Yeah. I'd hate it too.
Yeah.
Makes my life a lot easier. So.
Well, that's good to hear. So, when you started, were you a one-man show or did you have help right from the get-go?
I had one guy that right away.
Yeah.
Doing patios by yourself is not ideal.
Not a good idea.
So I quit the construction job I was at in November 16th of 2019 with no winter work ready.
Wow, November. Wow.
Yeah, they asked me a couple times, you sure you want to do this? We'll let you work through the winter and you can leave in the spring. I'm like, no, because I won't. So I just decided I'm going to do it now.
Oh, you were afraid you wouldn't leave?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Like I told you earlier, when I make my mind up, I need to do it.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it and do it one way.
Yeah.
Didn't have anything together. Him and I just decided we're gonna go for it. So he was my right-hand man. Got a plow truck. Luckily it snowed a fair amount that year. We did that. We're building some fences, doing some winter work, and slowly picked up as we got into the spring. And then COVID hit, so we had to get our paperwork together. Was
COVID your first year or was 2019 your first year? No.
2020 was my first
year. So COVID was your first year? Wow. Yeah. So that was a good time.
Yeah. Well, good and bad. So there was like a 2-week time period, 3-week time period where we didn't do anything.
Yeah, it shut down.
So we had to get the paperwork in the trucks that everyone needed to see, and then nobody ever asked for it.
Right.
So, and then we just kept working, and we really haven't stopped since. First year, it was me and 2 guys then. I picked up 1 person to help. And then it was, second year was 4 or 5 guys. And then last year, we had upwards of 12 guys. So, and then this year we're coming back down, just trying to be more efficient and better with what we do.
And what was the number of guys you have now?
4.
4.
Yep.
That sounds like a story.
Yeah, it is. And it surprises the crap out of you when you see what you're doing now versus what you did the year before.
So when you went, you said the second year was 4 or 5 guys?
Yeah. Yep.
From to like 12 plus?
Yep.
What, like, okay, so on the tail end of your year with your 4 or 5 guys, when you were going to 12, what were your plans? Like, what were you hoping, what were you gunning for?
I wouldn't say I really had a plan.
It was just you had the work. You just
had the work, yeah.
You had the work, so you were just trying to fill the need.
Yeah, we were
and
trying
throw
to just
bodies
get
at
done.
it.
Yep. Yeah, we were running 3 to 4 crews. You know, we had guys kind of spread everywhere. I had guys getting patios ready, guys doing patios, landscaping, construction, and you know, I kind of felt as we were going through the year, we were losing our identity. We weren't really being as efficient as we could be. You know, I have a pretty broad background, and I tried to exploit that. So, like, we can do interior work, we can do basement remodeling, decks, hardscaping, and kind of losing what from the ground up, trying to chase the production. And it
basically any lead you got, whether it was a bathroom or a shrub, you were running it down.
And we did it, and the stuff looked great, and everyone was happy. It was just, we want to be the premier outdoor living company.
Yeah.
We don't want to be, hey, they can do everything.
Yeah.
That's not what we
you
want.
lose. I see what you're saying, but you lose your identity, or you're not, you know, you're a jack of all trades as opposed to being a specialist. You're the best at something.
Yep.
You know.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's good to have that as a business owner, but maybe your business doesn't have to be you.
Right.
So you know, I can come home and fix stuff when my wife says the sink's leaky or something like that. But we don't have to do that
as a business,
day in, day out.
Yeah. So what were some of the challenges that you faced with going from 4 to 5 to 12 plus guys in 1 year?
The people was a big thing. We were burning through people.
So there was turnover even amongst those 12 going on.
Yeah. And you know, 12 would include a person or two in the office.
Sure.
But yeah, we were, and a lot of it I would say was mainly my fault. You know, I'm hiring people that have some experience, but not all the experience. So we were having to redo some things to get it to where I wanted it, quality-wise, standard-wise. And, you know, we were burning, people were getting frustrated with that because, you know, I had an image and a quality that I wanted it to look like in my head. And, you know, they didn't quite have the experience to get it there, so I would have to come in and do it.
You know, that's frustrating from both sides. It's
Absolutely.
It's frustrating from your side, but, you know, I worked as a foreman for many years, and we had really good training, I would say. But we also had a really good culture and a really good team, which kind of like, if you didn't have, you know, if you didn't care, you kind of got off to the side. But what I was getting at is, even from the employee side, it's really frustrating if you're like, like if you told me, go build a swimming pool, yeah, there's 2 or 3 people in Tussie that do it all the time, but I haven't. I've always done the water features. So I'd be like, I could probably do it, but you'd probably show up and rip a few things out on me. And like, that is hard. It's like demoralizing, or it's like, man, you know, you want to be good at what you do, you know? So I can relate to the frustration on both ends.
Yeah. And we had a lot of great people. You know, I don't really have any ill feelings towards anybody. They were trying their best, and you know, it just happens. It's just part of the business life.
They were just greener than you had
anticipated.
Yeah.
You know, I'd get somebody that say they had hardscape experience, and I would vet them a little bit, but I wouldn't maybe vet them to the degree that we should. And a lot of people can fake it for a little bit, and then once you're really 30 days in, you start
into the real meat of the projects.
And then at that point, you're like, well, do you just jump ship with them, or do you try to train them and get them to where you want it? Right. So, but I think now we really got to the people that we need, the people that are being efficient. We're getting the work done at a higher quality and a faster rate than we ever were.
Yeah. Would you say when you were adding people to fill the demand that you had, like, were you hoping to put the people into place and keep on growing, you know, but you kept getting sucked back into the.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a situation that I think a lot of owner operators, you know, it's like you get your core team around you and they're like, the demand's there, so you try to answer it.
Yep.
You know, and the systems and the processes they don't just happen. They take work. And training's one of them, you know.
Yep.
And I can even look at my own experience in building SynkedUP and see similarities in this. But it's like when you do build a systems and processes, it's easy to get it to a point where you can handle it yourself. But then when you hand it off to somebody, it's maybe not defined quite well enough, or there's too much information still in your head.
Yep.
And you look away and it crumbles.
Yep.
It's like it's better to go slow and make sure that you get the system, the process so ingrained and so into your process that when you look away, it doesn't crumble, it stands. Then you can stack the next one.
Yep.
You know, and I know for me, it's like, yeah, it's easy to, yeah, we got a process. Here's how we do it. But there's too many unanswered questions to hand it off to somebody else, and you think you're okay, but really, the moment you take your finger off the pulse, it you know, it needs your attention again.
Yeah, it gets challenging. 'Cause
Yeah.
then, you know, that's the work side, and then you have the business side where you're taking 4 and 5 weeks to get an estimate back to somebody, and that doesn't quite work.
Yeah,
so
that's
you're trying to juggle all that.
yeah.
Now, I do think the one thing we always did well, and it's because of some of the experiences I was talking to you about earlier, is we tried to have a good balance here as far as work and family. So the one thing that's the most important to me is family. If you have an issue at home that you need to take care of, I want you to go take care of it. I don't want to say I don't care, but I don't care about the time you have to go do to get that done. I want you to deal with them. Because if it was me, I'm going to go deal with my family and make sure that's right first. So we've always been about that. We don't work Saturdays or Sundays. From day one, my wife said, "You worked 7 days a week the last 3 years. I don't want you doing this anymore." So 5 days a week, we're going to make the most out of that we can. And I think to this day, we've only had to work 2 Saturdays. So, and going on our 4th year, I think that's pretty good for this industry.
That is a pretty rare accomplishment.
Yeah. So I want my guys to have their time off.
Quality of life.
Yep.
Yeah. And
Yep.
I know for me, wearing the employee hat for many years, and that's really important.
Yep.
If you feel like there's just like this infinite black hole that you dump your work into, and it's never enough. There's always, you finish one thing at 5 o'clock Friday, then there's still more work to do, and you finish that on 5 o'clock Saturday.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you know, it feels like the treadmill when that will always keep speeding up, you know.
Yeah, and to me, I'd rather make the most that we can Monday to Friday.
Yeah.
Then get into Saturday, and you're never as efficient on a Saturday, and
Yeah.
something bad always happens. And you know, for a lot of times we didn't have a supplier open on Saturday. Now our main supplier is, but still, it's just
Yeah.
I'd rather not.
Yeah. Yeah, there comes a point to where you can blame, like the clients are being relentless and they're asking you, but there's also a point to where you make a call and say something like, we're going to make the most out of this from Monday to Friday, and that's it.
And our clients have been great about it.
Yeah.
They don't
Like,
necessarily want
it's
us
funny
there
how,
on
like, when you
Saturday.
stand up for yourself,
Yeah.
it's like, you know, oh,
Yeah.
you know, and they
I
respect
mean,
that.
The job I showed you this morning.
Yeah.
And I told that homeowner, we don't work weekends. He's like, thank you. You know, I work a lot during the week. I want to be with my family on the weekends. I don't necessarily want somebody outside my house working.
Yeah.
I'm like, absolutely. And it works great.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a really good point. Well, I'm sure there's more people that have rode the roller coaster of, you know, 2 employees, 5 employees, 12 employees back to 4, you know. So as you look back over that, is there anything you do different? Like, let's say the same conditions exist, like the demand's there and all, you know,
Yep.
Is there anything you would do different this time?
That's a tough question. I mean, obviously, I'd like to train the guys better and vet the guys better, but I think ideally, I probably would have just stayed more in our lane. So stick to these custom outdoor hardscape areas.
So with the
and not do the basements refinishes and not put a sliding glass door in, because the hardscape, you know, we had some troubles, but they were always pretty self-sufficient. You know, I would need to be there from time to time. Our construction, you know, would really fumble, mainly because I was putting people in those places that didn't have a very large construction background with the mindset that I would be there. And then as stuff kept snowballing, I couldn't be there all the time. Which, you know, we've solved that now. We have a great construction foreman that's got 30 plus years of construction background. So there's a lot of stuff that I ask him about. You know, what would you do here? I got to put a price on this. What would you do? And it works great. That's
good. So really, in hindsight, you would just use the high demand to give you the luxury of getting really choosy with what work you take on, as opposed to trying to, you know, throw bodies at all the work that was coming your way.
We were trying to hit a number. You know, you're always trying to hit a top end number.
Yeah.
And instead of just stepping back a little bit and saying, do I have to hit that number? And it's amazing when you do that. And, you know, part of us slimming down was also because we didn't know what 2023 was going to be economy-wise. I didn't think it was going to be terrible, but, you know, everywhere you look, it says it's going to be a bad economy, everything's crashing. You're like, well, I'm going to be a little conservative here, and let's just be profitable. And we'll do just as much work as we did last year with 4 guys and myself.
That's amazing. So and when you say just as much work, do you literally mean just as many projects or just as much revenue?
Just as much top-end revenue.
That's amazing.
So with last year, we finished just shy of 1.3.
Yeah.
And we're budgeting right now to do about 1.4.
That's incredible. And is it?
We were just inefficient. We were just
like, are you doing different types of work this year?
I mean, we're doing a little bit more high-end construction.
Okay.
A little bit more commercial type work.
Yeah.
But no, our hardscape work's still fairly the same.
That is impressive.
Yeah.
From 12 to 4 and actually beating last year's numbers. And it's like, you know, that's what I was fishing for, like where you do maybe more maintenance and then going into.
No, we won't mow grass.
Yeah, so it's like, because that's crazy. Like I can see those kinds of transitions happen when people could maybe have a crew of 12 for maintenance, and then transition to a crew of you know, a half a dozen or whatever for projects where there's material. But like that is a pretty impressive. I would call that a win. A huge win.
Yeah, I mean, especially at the end of the year where you're not paying that many.
It's a lot
hours.
less. Yeah, it's a lot less drama, a lot less payroll.
Yeah,
a lot less stress.
One. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we just were super inefficient.
Yeah.
And a lot of that now with only 2 crews, a hardscape and a construction crew, you know, I can kind of float around and, you know, free labor, so that helps. And, you know, we were planning on being a little bit higher, about 1.6.5. But we planned on having a 3rd crew with a landscape crew, so doing the
1.4 with 2 is still.
But we backed that out. The person we had for that it wasn't a good fit. So we're just going to stick. We may hire some summer help, a younger guy, hopefully to get them into the trade.
Sure.
You know, that right person has to come up.
So with that experience, is there, like, speaking of efficiency, what's a lesson you've learned or a thing you've observed in efficiency that you're like, wow, that was a mistake, or I'm going to start, or you started doing this, or
with
whatever?
What the guys did, or what I was
Well,
doing?
just like when you think of your company efficiency. Do both if you can, if you have something.
So one thing that really sticks in my mind that just happened earlier this year is we had a backyard that you could not get into except with an MT. And for some reason, my guys were putting the pavers in a wheelbarrow and wheeling it up the driveway through the gate to the patio. And I get there and I'm like, why aren't we carrying the pallet with the MT? They're like, well, we just thought this would be faster. Like, I guarantee you it's not. So we kind of went back and forth, and I'm like, it's not. I like to let guys make decisions, but there's sometimes you're like, no, it's an MT100, it'll lift 3/4 of that pallet, take the first couple layers off, pick the pallet up, get it through the gate, sit it there, and then work 10 feet from it instead of wheeling it, 30 yards. But that leads into, I was stretched so thin that I couldn't be there to see when that was happening.
Yeah.
So that's my fault.
So lack of efficiency on job site production, probably based on, say, lack of experience.
Experience, and business owners think different.
Yeah.
Business owners don't
From an
think
efficiency,
about,
they think from an efficiency standpoint.
yeah, they're not
Yeah.
thinking about, this is going to be a little bit easier on my back, or this, I don't have to worry about turning the machine on and off. Like, we're thinking, all right, let's get that up there, and we're going to do that quick. And,
Yeah.
You definitely think differently. And that's been a real struggle with me, is you think everyone's thinking the same thing you are, and it's not.
Yeah.
Now, we hired a guy now that used to be a business owner, and him and I are kind of on the same wavelength, which is nice. But you don't always have that luxury.
No. And I appreciate the one thing you said about, like, I try to let people make their own decisions and stuff. Like, that's
I'm not a babysitter.
yeah. And I, as a entrepreneur or whatever, there's probably a bit of a perfectionist in you, and so that's hard to do.
Yep.
It's hard to not breathe down people's necks, and I'm speaking to myself.
Yeah, I mean, we're pretty laid back. I'm a pretty laid back guy.
Yeah.
I have a couple pet peeves that
Yeah.
the guys have figured out, and they're not really standard with the landscape industry. Like, I like things neat and orderly.
Yeah.
So, like, our pallets are all neat and orderly back there. Our trucks are all fairly clean.
Yeah.
Like, that's not, at least around here, it's not very normal. So I kind of break those habits from guys. And that's one thing we were wasting a lot of time with the last 3 years, is I was having the guys clean their own trucks. Well, they would take all day to clean one truck. When you're not there to manage everything because you're 37 different places, that happens. Now, are the guys taking advantage of you? No. I mean,
Not in their, I'm sure not in their mind,
It's
just a management. Yeah. But at that point, I mean, you could have had a professional car wash or mobile power washing or whatever company come in
and now, I was going to start doing it, and then my son wanted to make some extra money, so he's doing it.
That's sweet.
Put him to work.
Awesome.
Hopefully one day he's in this seat.
Exactly. I had a dad that was a business owner, and I did a lot of the same things, and that's how I bought my first BB gun, my first pair of hockey skates, like that's how I got that stuff was, which is awesome.
For sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So on the efficiency thing, like, did you have something in mind for, like, how you conduct how you lead your own day or your own week or your own habits around efficiency?
As far as, like, running the business or like a job site?
Like, back to the question of, do you have any tips on, after your experience of what you've done with your, do you have any tips on efficiency?
So I would say, as far as the business owner efficiency, I felt like the last couple of years I was just running around putting out fires, chicken with your head cut off, trying to be everywhere. This year I'm trying block schedule. You and I just talked about maybe trying a different style of that schedule where you prioritize your day with a certain topic.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to do that because you don't want to be running around constantly.
Reacting instead of planning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm doing a lot better job of getting our material orders in early, even though, it's not really COVID anymore, so you don't need to wait 6 weeks for pavers, but I still have them to our supplier 3, 4, 5 weeks ahead. Making sure our schedule's out 3, 4 weeks ahead, so that way the guys can look at it. Generally, in a 3 to 4 week is pretty solid. After that, it can change a little bit. So that's what we see. We're also, last year we would go from big project to big project to big project to big project. This year I'm trying to be a little bit more flexible. We'll do a big project and then a couple small ones, and a big project and a couple small ones.
Gives you a little more leeway. It gives you more flexibility around.
Yeah, and your guys like that because they like, when you have a 6 week, 8 week project, it kind of gets a little mundane, I guess might be the right word. Whereas if you can go in for 3, 4, 5 days and get
that before and after effect and a happy client.
Cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, everyone loves laying sod. Like, you go lay the sod and then
the before and after is like
yeah, it's amazing.
It's a reaction from the homeowner every time, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So we're just trying to do that a little bit.
Yeah.
And I'm an open book owner too, so the guys see how we're doing. We try to get together as often as we can and go over how the company's doing. what we're spending money on, this and that,
Mm-hmm.
and that way they kind of know where we are.
And I like this topic because when I worked at Tussie, it was the same way. It was open book. But I know there's a lot of people that aren't and feel vehemently like that you shouldn't be, and they say the guys won't understand. And I get that. Like, there is an element to where maybe the guys won't understand, and maybe you could even genuinely try to help them and they still won't understand. I get all those prefaces, but for the sake of talking it out here on the podcast, like, what makes you be open book with your guys? Like, what are you hoping they see, or what are you hoping they learn, or what?
It's mainly, I'm always worried, I guess you could say, that they're thinking, he's the business owner, he's just out playing golf or messing
Making
around,
bank.
just blowing money.
Yeah.
And it's not that way.
Yeah.
It's business ownership is money in, money out. I mean, you try to keep a little bit more than you spend, but sometimes it's not that way.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of showing them, hey, this is what we have budgeted. This is what we're spending in marketing. This is what we're spending on truck repairs, on damage to stuff. And you're going to have the people that when they see the bottom line of what you're profiting at that moment, oh, so you have that in the bank. Well, no, not necessarily.
Cash and net profit on a P&L is two different things.
Two different things.
Yep.
And you just kind of work through that. And then some of those people don't normally stay long or don't necessarily always pay attention.
Yeah, and people run different businesses on different models. Like, so I can see where maybe you're into a big production business and you're going to have staff on hand that maybe never will understand it.
Yep.
In the, what I would call the lifestyle business, an owner-operator, core team, solid high-end work.
Yep.
You want people, if they're not ever going to understand that, they probably are also going to struggle with the right mindset and the right showing up with the right attitude at their job.
And that's, if I wanted to be a big company because I thought that was lifestyle freedom, but it's not. It's kind of a trap. It's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, you can get to that point. I mean, you can produce lifestyle freedom at a...
But it's going to take a lot.
But it takes,
and I'm going to miss the years with the 4 kids I got inside.
It's going to take years of building those systems and processes, and kind of even installing middle management, if you will, that allows you to actually have that freedom. Whereas the other way is, stay small. I mean, that's a relative term. Stay more small, like in a core team of people. And there's people that run $2-3+ million businesses in one owner operator and a core team.
Yep.
So right there you can see how you could almost have as much, maybe even more, freedom over and control over your time and money.
Yep.
In that environment. Sure, if you break a leg, or you can't be an absentee owner in that case, like you could maybe if the business is set up with leadership and middle management and all of that. But it comes back to what you want. You know?
And I think that's kind of changed over the last 3 years of what I want. So I'm not ready to not get dirty.
Right.
So that's kind of what we're planning on.
Yeah.
So it's. Yeah. I like knowing all the families. I like knowing all the guys' kids. We like having events here when they all come. We like having Christmas parties where we give away Yetis and TVs and that kind of stuff.
Awesome.
It's. They need to like what they do, love what they do, and they need to love who they do it for. And if you don't have one or the other, you're gonna have a hard time.
Is there anything that you could point at that said that really helped my guys like what they do? Or is it different for every person?
It's different for every person. Like I have one guy, I'll give you 2 instances.
Yeah.
So I have a guy we just hired a little bit ago, and the first week he was here, his truck broke down right down the road. Got it towed here. He was trying to fix it on a Friday, and I'm like, dude, just take the truck home. He's looked at me like I had 5 heads. I'm like, just take one of the trucks home. Like it's not that big of a deal to me. He's like, you'd really let me do that? I'm like, yeah, and then bring it back on Monday, and we'll try to get your truck fixed Monday. If we can't, take it back Monday night, and you'll come back Tuesday morning. Like, it's not the end of the world to me. And that was like the biggest thing to him. And then I have another guy that he has to be home from his kids certain times, or his daughter sometimes gets sick, and we'll figure it out. Like I'm still capable of doing what you do, so I'll go fill in for you, and we'll make it work. So he's off this week with some family stuff, and it was last minute, but I'm like, hey, I'll take care of what we got. Me and Josh, we'll get it done. So you wiggle some stuff around, and it's not the end of the world. You got to be flexible. If you're a hard, stiff, this is the way it is, you're going to be running through people.
Yeah.
So, and it's like I told you before, when I worked for a large landscape company right out of school, that's all I wanted to do was work for this company. And then I figured out they're not really who I want to work for. And I liked what I did, but I hated who I did it for, so I started hating landscape. Went and did construction, large construction projects, 30, 40, 50, $60 million apartment buildings. And I loved that. And then my love for landscape kind of came back as I wasn't in the trenches every day, which led to us taking this full time.
Yeah, yeah. So it really connects back to, from what I hear you talk about, it connects back to genuinely just caring for people.
Yeah, absolutely. Whether it's a client or a customer or a supplier,
Right.
Hey, we can't get you the pavers. All right, well, what else can we do?
Yeah, what's the solution? Instead of flipping off.
I'm not going to yell at you.
Exactly.
I don't like to get yelled at. I don't want to yell at you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Those are really good. I think there's some good value here, because and I think it's easy to feel in your heart that you care for someone, maybe, but run over them.
Yep.
Or not realize how your actions or how you handle a certain situation, how they took it.
Yep.
So being aware.
Yep.
is important too, because there's definitely been cases where an owner may feel like, no, I do want you to be happy and I want you to be successful here and all that, but they didn't feel that, and so. But it boils down to making them feel cared for. That you care about them.
Yeah.
Just being in, giving them a truck around home, like it's such a small thing, but still meant the world to them.
Yeah. It's super small in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what did that cost you? $15 a gas?
Yeah, nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're already under the insurance, so it's not like anything can happen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And I can say, like, I worked for a guy like that was that way. I mean, there was probably times throughout my time there. I was there for 15 years as an employee.
Yep.
And there was definitely times when I'd have probably gone and done something else had I not felt that way about the business. So even though I loved what I did and loved the water features and but yeah, it's important.
Everybody has a rough day once in a while when you can look back and say, hey, at least my rough day's for this person.
That's right. Yeah.
It makes it better.
Where you said, we were talking before the podcast, and you said you started using a software pretty much right out of the gate, like when you started your business.
Yeah, so as soon as I started my business, we had a software. I don't know if.
Yeah, good, yeah.
But we used LMN. Made estimates a lot easier from just writing it on a pad of paper and typing it up. So I wanted something that I could help pump estimates out. It also helped me build a budget.
Yep. Which is huge.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, as soon as I jumped into the company, I've always loved business. So I wanted to treat it like a business. When we did it as a side business, when I worked at a construction company, I already had insurance, already had the legal name, already had our, workers' compensation, and we had all of that. Even though we didn't really need it, we were doing like 30, 40 grand a year. I still had it because I wanted to feel like I owned a business. So as soon as I made the jump, a lot of that was already done. So I invested a couple $100 a month in LMN. It helped. And then I think we just quickly outgrew it and it just turned into a struggle bus really towards the end. And it just, I'm very loyal to people and to things. So I wanted to be loyal to it. And they made it too difficult at the end. And switching, there's a little bit of a headache at first, but man, has it made life so much easier. You can actually keep track of where
Yeah,
you are, switching to SynkedUP. Yeah. You actually know where you are on a project. Like that was the biggest thing. I was going from LMN for estimates, keeping track of our projects on paper and then QuickBook projects, paper timesheets, and then putting it in QuickBooks. It was a full-time job. And then now I can do everything in one software. And it's amazing.
I love hearing that because like software should, it's not a perfect world.
Yeah.
Software should be making your life easier, not harder.
Yeah.
And to be fair, like, LMN's budgeting and estimating stuff, they've saved businesses that, and it does a great job. And that solved a big problem for you at that time, but then, just the workflow side of things. Yeah, makes total sense because, like, that was kind of our same experience too.
Yeah.
When we were at Tuskegee, it was just great for budgeting and estimating, but then once it hit production, it was just kind of...
Yeah, which it sounds like I think some people have said they've started getting some of that stuff in order, but at the time we left, they didn't. So but yeah, it just keeping track of the projects and the guys seeing what's coming and what they're doing on a project, like that's awesome.
Yeah.
Because we would print out sheets and give it to them, but they're gonna lose it. It's gonna get rained on. We will laminate our designs, but I don't necessarily put everything on there.
Yeah. And material gets swapped out, and then the paper's outdated.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I always like to ask, sometimes I forget, but I always like to ask, what's the best advice you've ever been given?
I kind of got two things. One's the best advice I've been given. The other one is advice that I would give. So the best advice I was always given was mainly from my dad, and when we were deciding to get into this, was just to be myself. Be true to who you are. At the end of the day, he always used to say, you need to treat it like it's your grandmother's house. So it needs to be just as clean as you'd leave her house, just not your own house, not your parents' house, your grandmother's house. And that's always the way he did it.
That's really good.
And just to be true to yourself, and it's kind of cliche, but I'm very easygoing, and that's kind of the way I do business. If we want to change something on a job last minute, let's do it. I'm not going to make a big fuss about it. You need to live with this the rest of your life. This is your project. I'm moving on to the next one after this. I want you to be happy. And then the piece of advice that I would give a business owner is just to find a company that you trust, or a person that you trust that's maybe a little bit bigger than you or has a little bit more wisdom than you, and let them help you. I had a guy that I text him all the time, and I'd probably bother the crap out of him, but his name's Rob Lenhoff with Lenhoff Landscaping and Design, and they probably do some of the best work I've ever seen in my life, and I'm always striving to try to be Rob. Not in a weird sense or nothing, but I always want to, I don't want to copy my business to him, but I want to strive to do work just as well as he does. So I always bounce stuff off of him and ask him for advice, and that's what I would suggest to somebody.
Yeah, I think that's really good because there's something about a mentor that when you have a mentor to look up to like that, it kind of prevents you from getting too comfortable.
Yep.
Or stuck in your ways.
Yep.
It's like a reminder. It keeps the edge sharp.
Yeah. You always need to be progressing forward, because the minute you stop, you're backwards.
That's right. There is no neutral.
Correct. Nope. Not at all.
There's either growing or dying. Yeah.
Yep. It's just like the race cars. As soon as you stop, you're dead.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And I gotta say, I really enjoyed just the couple hours here.
Yeah. Appreciate you coming down.
I want to commend you for the focus I see you taking on your kids and your family, like with your racing and your hobby. Like it makes me think about myself and my kids. It's like it's so easy to get sucked into this.
It is, yeah, and there's certain days that we don't do the stuff we want to do, but when it comes to them and sports, I was a big soccer player. So this racing stuff's all new, but like my middle son's into soccer, so I'm trying to help him any way I can. So like this area out here, even though we just got the grass growing, I think we're going to end up leveling it off a little bit more and build them a little soccer field.
Do a Jack Kelly thing?
Yeah, maybe not that big. Yeah, maybe not that big, but we'll do something a little smaller.
That's awesome, because like, at the end of the day, the business is, the families will be with us forever, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
well, hey, thanks for, putting your faith and trust in us
Absolutely.
as a company, and I appreciate that. It means a lot to me, and it's where I get meaning and purpose out of my work now, like transitioning from out in the field into this. It's just being a small part in your journey, and seeing you thrive.
Yeah. It's definitely helped a lot. I know everyone likes to throw around the game changer thing, but
the overused term, right?
it is. But it really has helped. I mean, just tracking where we are, really let us look at last year. Hey, we're being a little inefficient here. Let's figure out where. And we're not perfect.
No, never is.
But we did find that it was a lot of labor that was being wasted. So
that's key. When you know it, now you can do something about it.
Yep.
When your first indication is cash is not in the bank that you think should be there, and you don't know what to do about it, that is the most frustrating feeling there is in the world.
And it's already almost too late at that point.
Exactly. That's like your that's like the death throes.
Yep.
Because you're riding a razor thin edge at that point.
Yeah.
So, well, hey, thanks again. Appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you.
It's fun to come down here and hang out with you.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right.